Hi everyone. Thank you for coming back to my YouTube channel to learn more about how you can be your best you. In my prior videos in this series, I described my vision that there are 6 key steps towards becoming your best you. Each of these steps builds on the steps before it, but also powerfully reinforces those steps, creating a virtuous circle. My first 2 videos were focused on the first steps in this virtuous circle, which were gratitude and positivity. This video is focused on the third step, which is belief. What do I mean by belief? When I say belief for this video, I mean that you have a conviction that you are capable of achieving important things in your life. Once you start to view your world through the lens of positivity, belief is a natural consequence. Once you see the world around you through a positive lens, you also start to view your own capabilities and your own potential through that same positive lens. Let me describe why I think belief is such an important part of becoming your best you. Whether you believe that you are capable of achieving a certain outcome has a massive impact on whether you actually do achieve that outcome. And this has been proven physiologically in many, many studies. In various versions of these studies, they would have people complete an arduous task, and they would divide them up into 2 groups. Before the task, one group would be given negative feedback about their ability to achieve that task, and the other group would be given positive feedback or inputs about their ability to achieve that task. And reliably, the group that is given negative inputs in advance of achieving that task does much more poorly on that task than the people who are given positive inputs. Turns out, simply believing that you're capable of doing something, whether it comes intrinsically or whether you're told that you're capable of it, has a massive impact on your ability to do it. There's a saying that says that the person who believes they can and the person who believes they can't are both usually right. And I believe that's 100% true. Forming a belief in yourself can be easy if you've already accomplished what you're trying to achieve. If on your first try you go out and you succeed, well, great, congratulations. It's easy to believe in yourself after that you can do it again. But believing in yourself is much harder when you haven't yet accomplished something. When you haven't started because you're afraid you might fail, or that it's going to be really hard, or if you have tried and you fail. At that point, choosing to believe that you're capable of accomplishing something, despite the fact you have no evidence yet, is a tremendous act of confidence that has powerful impacts in your life. And yes, belief is a choice. You can choose to believe that you're capable of it before you've proven it, because you're committed to putting in the work to proving it. And once you start to see that your life is full of possibilities and believe that you're capable of achieving things you haven't achieved yet, you are destined to accomplish much more in your life than the person who views their world as full of limitations and full of reasons why they cannot accomplish something. Now, let me share a strategy with you that can help you when you don't have that evidence yet. You haven't achieved something, yet you are looking to believe that you're capable of it. And this strategy is to look around and draw confidence from other people like you who have already accomplished it. Whether it's getting off the couch and running your 5K, doing your first triathlon, or going from a sprint triathlon to an Ironman triathlon, or whatever goal you have in your life, if you go out onto social media, on the internet, ask around people you know, you can almost always find someone who looks like you, has your same background, is your same age, or has your same characteristics, who is able to achieve what you want to achieve. And you can draw confidence from them. If they can do it, you can do it. Let me share an example from my own life. When I was 14 years old, I ran a marathon. Now, if you had asked me, and most 14-year-olds, in the absence of that strategy, hey, do you think you can go out and run a marathon right now at age 14? I would have said, no way. Like that would have sounded crazy. But in my case, I was fortunate enough to be running as part of a cross-country team with a talented group of upperclassmen who every year at the end of the cross-country season, they would run the Kansas City Marathon, which happened a couple weeks after the end of the season. They were already in shape, and it was just a tradition. So some of these guys had run it when they were a freshman or sophomore, and they looked at me and said, "Hey, Sean, like, you're one of us now. Are you going to run the marathon with us?" And at first I was like, oh my God, there's no way I can do that. But then I realized they did it when they were my age. I'm training with these guys. We're running the same miles, day in, day out. Maybe I can do it. And I drew confidence from the fact that they had done it. And I went out and did something that, normally I would have thought was completely impossible. And so you can draw belief by looking at other people and transferring that belief to yourself. Now, what about the situation when you go out and you try to find people that you can relate to who have accomplished a task and you can't find any? Or maybe no one has ever accomplished the task. How do you believe that something is possible when you can't find other people who have done it? And maybe it's never happened. That is the ultimate act of confidence, the ultimate act of belief. And let me give you an example from the world of sports that might help to illustrate this. For many, many years, everyone believed that no human could run a marathon in under 2 hours. They did extensive physiological studies that showed your muscles wouldn't get enough oxygen, they would fatigue too fast, they would produce too much lactate. All these things would happen to make it impossible. Or that it would take the body years and years of adaptation to get there. And extrapolating from all the data they had on marathons, they thought it might be possible by the year 2075. But the problem was, no one told the runners that. And so runners were going out and putting up times that were getting pretty close to 2 hours and totally blowing away these models in terms of what the human body could do and when it could do it. So all of a sudden, everyone had to say, wait a minute, this looks like it's possible. And then Nike formed a project to prove it and said, hey, we're not going to wait till 2075. We're going to create a project to show this can be done now. And this was 2017. They formed a project called Breaking 2 and enlisted the best marathoners in the world, including the world record holder, Eliud Kipchoge. And they went out to show that this was possible. And they created the ideal conditions, flat course, right time of year, right weather, right shoes. And sure enough, they got within 25 seconds, so 2 hours and 25 seconds. And at that point, now everyone believed that it was possible. And a couple of years later, they actually got under 2 hours in 2021. Kipchoge broke the 2 hour threshold. Now that was in a controlled race where all of these conditions have been accounted for, but it won't be long until someone breaks it in a live marathon, because now everyone knows that it's possible. Everyone believes that it can be done. That belief that something is possible has a powerful impact. This exact same phenomenon played out in the scenario of the 4-minute mile, which was broken by Roger Bannister in the 1950s. Prior to Bannister, no one believed that it was possible. They literally thought your heart might explode from too much circulation. But Bannister broke it in the 1950s. And then within a few years, several other people had broken it, and now hundreds and thousands of people have broken it. So it really just takes someone to step up and believe and show that it's possible. And then everyone else can, believe based on what they've seen. Now, what about when you've tried and failed, and you try and fail again, and maybe even try and fail again? How do you continue to believe when you continue to fail? Well, one thing that might be helpful to remember here is the story of Thomas Edison. You've probably heard the fact that Thomas Edison had many, many, many failed experiments before he invented the light bulb. I've heard the number that it was over 1,000 experiments. But he did that, his approach was that after every failure, he would figure, okay, that approach doesn't work. What am I going to change in the next experiment? In every experiment, he would learn from what failed in the past one, try something new, and see if that worked. To him, failure wasn't a setback. Failure was an opportunity to learn what to change in the next experiment. And he was willing to go at it again and again and again until he got it right, and he did. And eventually he built the first, working light bulb, which has transformed society, because he just never gave up. And he looked at failure as a blessing, as a source of feedback, and as a source of how can I do things differently. There's a motivational saying that I love, which says, the setback is merely the setup for the comeback. So every time you have a setback, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as a chance to learn and to get better and to achieve your goal next time. I can share a story from my personal life again here on adapting to failure and trying to view it as a positive. I started doing Spartan races in 2018. And in my first one, I failed a bunch of obstacles. I couldn't do the grip ones. I kept slipping off the monkey bars, the rings. There was a bunch of the obstacles that I just didn't know how to do them. But I still had a ton of fun because it was my first time out there, and I didn't really expect that my first time I would be any good at it at all. But then the next year, when I did my second and third, I expected that I would be pretty good at that point. I knew what I was doing now. I had some experience, yet I went out and I failed many of the same obstacles. And I started to get discouraged, and I was like, well, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I'm too short. Maybe my arms aren't long enough so I can't reach, on the monkey bars, or maybe my fingers aren't long enough and I'm just not good for this sport and I should give it up and focus on something else. But then I started to look around and I saw so many people who looked like me and seemed like me, just average competitors out there who were blowing through these obstacles and getting them done. And then I realized, you know what? There's got to be a way that I can do this. The answer cannot be that I'm not capable of doing this. So I have to figure out how to get it done. I have to study the techniques. I have to talk to people, learn what works for them. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I got a great trainer. I did all of these things. And sure enough, I started to beat some of these obstacles. And then finally, one year, I ran a clean race at Fenway Park, Spartan Stadium, passed every obstacle cleanly. And the feeling that I had at the end of that was of this amazing pride for having persevered and believed that I could do it even in the face of a lot of failure. Now, once you believe in yourself and in your capability to achieve important things, you'll be ready to continue on the journey to becoming your best you. Come back to this channel in a few weeks. I'll be releasing my next video that describes the fourth step in this process. I look forward to sharing that with you. In the meantime, I want to thank you for your support on my journey. It means the world to me to have your support and your encouragement. I also want to support your journey as well, so please reach out to me. Let me know how we can collaborate, how I can support you on your journey. Follow me on Instagram at Sean Hoyt Stay Active, or check out my website at www.seanhoytstayactive.com. Thank you again. I enjoyed talking to you. I hope you got something out of this video. And in the meantime, stay active and be your best you. Thank you, everyone.